Hello everyone, happy Father's Day if you are in North America. We celebrate Father's Day on Sunday, or at least I think it's the third Sunday of every June. I never remember which Sunday it is. I always have to look it up. Anyways, today we're going to talk about found fathers in books. I have 10 books that I have found fathers in that I have deemed to be not biologically fathers to these children. You will see what I mean. Some of them are a little blurry on the lines, but we'll make do. They are definitely people that I found to be not directly fathers to these children or related in that way. We'll get there. Anyways, we're gonna jump into these 10 fathers who definitely chose to be that role for these people. Also, if you're wondering, these books are nothing to do with this video. I'm pre-planning my Jane Austen July TBR, and this is the stack that is forming already. So stick around if you want to see Jane Austen July videos coming up in the future. That will be happening very shortly on my channel. But that's why that stack's there. I don't want to lose that stack. Anyways, first book. For this list of 10 books, I will be talking in spoiler-free terms. However, if I hold up a book and say, this is a found family book, and then I say these will contain spoilers, you have been warned and you can take it as found father, but we are going to talk about spoilers now. So, in this book of Vanity Fair, we have a man named William Dobbin. He meets up with a woman who has a child, and he definitely takes on a fatherly role. I'm going to talk about spoilers now, like I just said, so you are warned. Ready? When I put down the book, you can come back, so you can skip ahead. I will also have a timestamp on here. Anyways, so in Vanity Fair, there is a woman named Amelia, and she gets married to this man named George, who is William Dobbin's best friend. And Dobbin is with George when George is not really deserving of Amelia, and Dobbin is definitely in love with Amelia. However, he never uses that to his advantage or presses Amelia to return his affections. And then when George dies, he takes the place of raising Amelia's son with her and helps her raise him in the fatherly manner. It is definitely a choice where he makes that decision to do outside of his duty and help her raise her son and give guidance and help out with finances. It is definitely an obligation that he did not need to do, but yet he chose to. So I think this is a perfect example of someone who loves this family and wants to help, but he also knows that it is not his place to do it without the mother's acceptance, and she accepts obviously, but he wants to help this child out as best he can, and he does. So I think it's a great example of that. Another one might be a little strange. I'm gonna hold up the third book in the series, so if you haven't had any spoilers for the series, I'm sorry. This is gonna be a found father situation, in my personal opinion, for the Hunger Games series. So, if you haven't been spoiled for the Hunger Games series, timestamp on the screen, right there. I will also have it in chapters, situation obviously, that you can see on the screen as well, or in the breakdown. Anyways, I think that there is a found father in Haymitch. I was thinking about who is Katniss's father figure in this, and since her father had passed away when she was 11, I think Haymitch really takes on that role, and I think especially in this one where he really helps her and really stands up for her. Like, he really is a mentor is what he's called, but I think he's more than that. He really cares about her, and even like throughout the other books, but I think it really shows itself in this one. Yeah, I think we really see it, but also, I mean, in Catching Fire as well, we really see that too. But I think in this one, it really comes to fruition when you see them in District 13 together. And I think that there is a real dynamic of family between them. And like I said, he's their mentor. He's not their father, her and Prim, but he really takes Katniss under his wing. And I think my personal opinion would be that he forever views Katniss as family. And I think that that definitely qualifies as someone who chose to be part of her life and guide her as a father would. One of my favorite Christmas books of all time, I don't know why it is, but I read it every Christmas, is A Texas Legacy Christmas by Diane Mills. So this one is about Zach, who he's in New York and he comes across these two orphans who pickpocket him. And so he is going to return them, and they're like, well, they would really do with a good home. So he's like, oh, fine, I'll adopt these two boys. Little does he know, one's a little girl and one's a boy. And so he becomes this father, and the whole book is about him trying to become a father to them while also having this romance and going home to his country, country is town, while also owning a paper and meeting a young lady who he knew from before. I think it's just so sweet. I read it every Christmas. I think it's delightful, but I love the father-child relationship and how he's really growing into that role. And he really comes into it spontaneously, but he puts his heart and soul into it, and he doesn't quit, even though there are rough patches. Like, he dedicates his life to it when it's tough, and I think it's really well done. So even when I reread it, it still holds up, and I really recommend it. I mean, I know it's summer, but I think it's a great one if you're looking for an adoption storyline. So the next one I recommend is Percy Jackson. So this first one is The Lightning Thief, and this is by Rick Riordan. I think if you're looking for someone who is looking for father figures, this book is kind of on point for that. He never really has a father figure up until the start of this book, and I think Chiron is who I'm putting in this official slot as the first book. He is trying to find out who is this strange person who is like helping him out. And then as he is living with his mom and stepfather, who is the worst, his stepfather, not his mom. His mom is awesome. But this is about fathers, not mothers, this video. He's really struggling to figure out how his father, because that's the whole point of this first book, is who is his dad. And I'm not going to spoil it for you in this video. But his dad is a Greek god. So let you figure that one out when you read the book, at least. But anyways, the whole question is, you know, who can he turn to, and who can he rely on for like information, and who can he go to ask for questions from? And so Chiron turns to be that person. And I think also Dionysus at the camp, he really comes into this found family at the camp. But in particular, Chiron is that person at camp and even before camp in his first book. I think it's really crucial. And then later on throughout the book series, you meet other male leaders, male role models that Percy can actually look up to. And I think this is a really great series for male role models, and Percy Jackson just learning, you know, who he can look up to, even though his dad has kind of been absent, at least in his really early years. And I think it's a really great story for that. Another classic is Eight Cousins by Louisa May Alcott. This one is the one that blurs the lines a little because technically he's her uncle. Now, he's not her dad, and I think, it's been a little while since I've read it, but I think they weren't exactly close. So she didn't really know him. And I think the reason why I picked this one, I mean, aside from many reasons, but the one I mainly picked this one is because he doesn't know girls, okay? Uncle Alec, he's like, I know boys, I don't know girls. I have 7 nephews, and that's like all I know. But I will take Rose and I will help her, and I will do my best to help her in every way I can. And so she is like living with these aunts, and he goes in and he's like, no, we're gonna do things my way because I'm her guardian. And it really is the best thing for her. She is able to, you know, remove the cattiness that is the other girls around her at her school. She's able to just really focus in on what is important, and he just really helps set some good boundaries for her. I think that he's the best person for her in that living environment, especially after her parents pass away. It is a really great, solid example of adoption, and by a single man who really didn't know what he was doing, but he was like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do the best I can for my niece in spite of my lack of knowledge, because I love her and I love my brother and I love the memory of him, and I am not going to let her like lose that. So I think this is a really great example of that kind of storyline. I think it's a really great story. The second book, you have to kind of embrace the times with it. This one too, in some ways, but yeah, I think it's a really solid one, at least for that adoption storyline. And also Rose just, you know, growing up with an uncle who's like, hey, life is tough sometimes and I'm here to help you and support you and get you through life as best I can. And I think that's a really great choice, especially from a male father figure leading a female child who neither of them really know each other, and they work so well together. So my next book is Never Again Goodbye by Terry Blackstock. This is a Christian suspense author, but this book definitely falls more into Christian romance. It is about a man named Wes who has adopted a daughter with his wife, but his wife has passed away after having a battle with cancer, I believe, and the birth mother has come back into the picture as she wants a relationship with her daughter. And so he is fighting to keep his daughter, and he refuses to let her go. So he refuses to give up Amy, and Lainey, who is the birth mom, is just wanting a second chance with her. So it's a book about them, but also there is this fake marriage trope that I actually really enjoy when it's done well, and I felt like it was done well in this. It is a really short one, and I feel like it handles a lot of issues, but I think it also does it well in the sense that it doesn't wrap up neatly in the end. However, it wraps up in a way that it continues on through the series, because it is a 4-book series and the next book does have characters from the storyline. So you know it continues on in that way. So I think this is a great one for that. The next one I have is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. I think you might have expected this one to be on this list if you have heard me talk about this book before on my channel. This is a story about a man who found a little girl abandoned in his bookstore. So first of all, bookish book, amazing. Secondly, he finds this girl abandoned in his bookstore and he decides to raise her. It is beautiful, and he is like, I don't know what to do with this little girl. She's just a baby, so he doesn't know what to do with her. He has no idea what to do with kids, and he just chooses to pick her up and raise her and keep going. And it's just a beautiful, heartwarming story. He's not always happy. He's actually quite a curmudgeon, but you just love his, at least I do, you just love his way of telling the world things, and he just is such an interesting character to get to know things about. But then also you meet the people around him in this small little town, and it is just a perfect book about A.J. Fikry and his relationship with his daughter and the people in his town. But it's a book about him, and he definitely does become an adoptive father, which I think is just so brilliant. All right, are we ready for an interesting take? This one might blur the lines too, because we're going with Rochester. Rochester from Jane Eyre. This we might call spoilery. You might be spoiled, you might not. I'll let you decide. If you want to know nothing going in, consider it a spoiler. I would not consider it too much of a spoiler, so that's just my personal opinion. This one is because Rochester has a little ward, I think she's 12 when she's in the book. I might be wrong, it's been a little while since I've read it. And she is a little French girl who Jane is originally hired to be the governess of when she leaves the school that she is working at. However, there is some speculation that Rochester is actually her father. Now, the reason why that is okay in my book for this list is because, one, he is her guardian and not her father, and two, her mother was not faithful to him when technically she was his mistress, but she was also the mistress of another man. So no one actually recognizes Adele as Rochester's daughter, and Rochester doesn't even recognize her as his daughter. And there's only the potential. So polite society doesn't, no one does. And I feel like that's okay for this because he has no duty to her. And I think that's okay. I think it counts. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Anyways, the reason why Rochester's on this list is because he, in spite of his lack of ability, because I might get a bad rep for saying this, but I don't think he's a great person at communication, shall we say. He has a lot of feelings, but he doesn't really communicate them well. He does try his hardest to take care of Adele. He hires a governess. He does the best he can with the house. He does try, and when he sees her and she's trying to do these things to impress others, which he knows are not good habits that she learned from her mother, it's not something that he encourages. He actually really distrusts it, and he tells her it's not a good thing, and he immediately shuts it down. He tries his best to turn her into a woman of notable character, and I think that's something of worth in Rochester. I am not the hugest fan of Rochester as a moral person, shall we say. However, I do think that he is a really good father figure as best he can, because I also don't think he had a really great experience as a child with his own father. Just from what we read from the book, I think we can glean that he didn't really see a good side of his dad. So I think that you can just read into the psychology, but that's reading into the book. Anyways, I'm just gonna say I think he has a good example to Adele of what a father figure can be, and he is doing his best in spite of having no expectations put on him for that role. The next book on this list is Love Comes Softly. This is the first book in the Love Comes Softly series. This is by Jeanette Oke, and of course the man of the hour in this book is Clark Davis. Now, he is a single father, he is a widower, and his wife passed away, and he meets Marty, who is just widowed like an hour before, I think it was, when her husband died on the trail. And after she gets married to Clark as basically a mother for his daughter, she discovers that she's pregnant after they are married, and they have never, they've never had a relationship like that. So it's only her husband's child, her previous husband's child. So it is very clear to her that she has basically brought a new child into this relationship, and Clark had no idea. Now, when Clark discovers this new child through very unique circumstances in the book, he's overjoyed that the fact that this baby will be brought into the home, and he is excited for the fact that Missy will have a little brother or sister, and they will be able to bring joy to this home in that way. He has no concerns about the fact that it is not his child, and he actually defends Marty's character to the people in town when they start saying that it's his child and not her first husband's. I think he is a great father to this little boy, as later in this book, he proves that he is a very impactful person with that first relationship, and down the series as they are deeply in love. It is a great series. I think it is a very cozy romance series, and I think it is a great Western series to read. So my next book is a graphic novel that I read, which is Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, a modern graphic novel retelling of Little Women. This one is by Ree Tessero and Brie Indigo. This is obviously retelling of Louisa May Alcott's book, and the reason why I chose this is because in this book it is a blended family, and I remember reading it and thinking of how clearly they are well meshed together. But more important than that, I remember thinking of how Jo feels about her stepfather. She clearly loves him and misses him as he is overseas, and it's not just a stepfather-stepdaughter relationship. She loves him and she wants him home as safe and sound as possible, and it's as if she is actually his daughter. They clearly have no biological relationship, as he is Meg's dad and Amy and Beth's actual father. However, the bond between Jo and her dad through the emails that you read, you can just tell they are instantaneously close. And I think that just speaks volumes to that relationship, that they developed, even though you don't see that relationship at that point in the graphic novel. And later when he comes home, you see that relationship, but those emails really spoke to me of how close they really were. So those are my favorite found fathers in books. Please let me know down below in the comments who are your favorite adoptive or found fathers or chosen fathers in books. Also, if you're new here, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, you can like. I will also have the found mothers video in the description below and in the cards for you to check out if you'd like to find a similar video like this. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.